Microsoft founder Bill Gates claims Australia's political ban on nuclear will see the country miss out on the next 15 years of nuclear energy development. The billionaire philanthropist is also throwing support behind gas as a stepping stone as the world shifts towards green energy. Mr Gates says gas and nuclear can still be viable, especially in poorer nations, while simultaneously avoiding the worst of global warming.
Australia is very blessed, whether it's wind or solar. It's quite phenomenal, and your land area per person, compared to say Singapore is pretty good. And so the opportunities created by a world that is getting rid of greenhouse gas emissions, Australia is rare in that the opportunities exceed the things you have to give up. You have to give up a large part of the, and eventually almost all of the coal mining activity.
Nuclear expert Andy Patterson says Mr Gates raises the right issues for Australia.
Fission and fusion are part of the future mix. The question is how and when. And I think that's where, in a very polite way, he wasn't asking Australia to place the bets that he's placing, very large amounts of money in the United States, in both fission and fusion. However, I think the subtext was, you have to take nuclear seriously and it's banned in your country.
And joining us now with more on this is Ticky Fullerton, the editor-at-large of the Australian's Business Review. Ticky, good to see you. Appreciate your time. Thank you. The comments on nuclear were really interesting, but also on gas. We've had a huge debate here in Australia, obviously, about gas, and he was keen to weigh in on that.
Well, I think that's, pushing it. We, of course, are very interested in his in his response to that. I did ask him about where he saw gas in the energy mix and did he see it as a transition fuel. And when I asked him, he was very strong and very clear. He said, of course, it's a transition fuel. I mean, it's, there's no way it can be banned. And he sees this as important in two ways. First, in countries like America and Australia, within country, he sees it as inevitable that it plays a part in it, but also very importantly, in some of the poorer countries that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has done so much to assist. He thinks it's essential that they be allowed to use fossil fuels, both coal and gas, for so long as the Western world is unable to supply them with cheap, firm, renewable energy. And I think, frankly, he talks a lot of sense on the gas issue.
And do we assume that Gates is putting his money where his mouth is? He's investing in gas and nuclear. And what about hydrogen? Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, look, he is putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, he's got this massive Gates Foundation, which has, billions and billions of dollars in it. The annual spend is going up to $9 billion per year by 2026. So it gives you an idea of the sort of money he's throwing at this. But aside from that foundation, he's got something called Breakthrough Energy, which is a separate energy fund in the energy transition space. And among the bets he's placing is very much a bet on hydrogen with gas, green hydrogen, but also what's known as blue hydrogen. In other words, using gas to convert into hydrogen, which is likely to be a much sort of sooner kid on the block, if you like, in terms of creating hydrogen than green hydrogen, which is made out of water. Now, green groups would say, no, let's ditch blue hydrogen altogether. There should be no role for gas in this. But in terms of our transition to getting green hydrogen, I think blue hydrogen will be a very important part. And then on the nuclear front, again, when I asked him about nuclear, he was quite careful, actually. He said, you know what, you guys, when it's a really politically difficult situation in a country, that's okay. But nuclear is really important. He said, I am putting billions behind nuclear, so I certainly hope it pays off. And specifically, he's got this sodium-cooled nuclear project, and his big ambition is to bring the cost down for nuclear, because he says, look, the problem with nuclear, I mean, aside from the safety issue and those sorts of issues, which they are all working on, but the big problem of it is cost, which, you know, through Westinghouse bust and is a real challenge to countries around the world who are thinking, thanks to the Russian tightness of gas, thinking of developing more nuclear. We know that France and America and the United Kingdom are all very exercised about this, but Gates himself has got this project where on paper he's now got the cost down to about a third. So he's very excited about it.